All right, we are going to get started in 5, 4, 3.
Like a gummy bear.
It's the internet. You're busy. Let's do this for February 19th, 2025. For the next hour or so, let me help you sort through the world of gaming on Game Mess Mornings Live with me, Jeff Grubb. Today, Niantic has enough of your data to power an army of cyborg cops, so it doesn't want to play with Pokemon anymore. But first, please join me in welcoming today's co-host at Game Mess Mornings. It's Lucy James Games. Lucy, how are you doing?
I'm doing very well, thank you. I'm just finishing off the final pieces, not final pieces, but like I'm making a cup of tea. So I'm really keeping up with those British stereotypes. But shout out to Jordan Midler. He got me 240 tea bags. And I got searched when I came back through TSA with them.
Did they? Did you have to like claim them or whatever? Did you have to deal with customs?
No, they just were kind of... They like gave me the up and down with the thing,
right.
You know, with the wand. I got not full secondary screening, but they did take them out of my bag and they were like, "Excuse me, ma'am, what is this?"
That's a lot.
I was like, "Look," and then I started speaking and they're like, "Oh, you're British, okay."
It all makes sense now. They're like, "Okay,
all makes sense.
You know what?
Now.
We're even for the Tea Party, the Boston Tea Party. We're even now. You can bring these back, and that settles it."
I mean, I did go to the Boston Tea Party Museum when I was, funnily enough, in Boston once. And when we started speaking, there was a bunch of English people. It didn't go well. We didn't stay.
Well, listen, it's settled now. You solved it. You brought back your tea, and now we're all good. I think that's how that works. You need Jordan Midler to source your tea? Did he send it to you? Or did he give it to you as a gift or what? Or is this just what happened here?
So he was at the Split Fiction event that I went to in LA,
right?
Which I'm not going to lie, I did sort of semi-bully him into going to because originally he was not going to. Because then the date moved and I was like, you can go now. You can come hang out. And so you can get tea over here. American tea, not good.
Sure.
I'm not going to drink that. But it's also a matter of the water. However, Jordan also brought me some dairy milk and some Monster Munch, and it was very gracious, very kind of him.
Our water's too flavorful because of all the fluoride. That really is how it works there.
Our water, yeah, we've got fluoride, but also, at least, so in the UK, you get hard water or soft water because of where the water kind of runs over the Pennines, the mountains in the middle of the country, and it genuinely does impact how the water tastes and how good your cup of tea is. But it also talks about how messed up your kettle is going to get because if there's too many minerals, your kettle gets full of limescale. And so I'm from the north of England, and our kettles were shocking. Anyway, this is the most British conversation. Should we start talking about weather or something?
Yeah, well, listen, let's do it. Yeah, I love talking about the weather. Maybe I'm British at heart. No, let's explain what we do here. Most weekdays, I, Jeff Grubb, will help piece your gaming life back together. That includes breaking news and maybe even some of our own original reporting. For all these topics, I'll get the input of a bona fide expert who will make me look smart. If you are watching live on Twitch, welcome. You can always listen to the show later on podcast feeds by searching for Game Mess Mornings or find the RSS on giantbomb.com. You can also catch the show later with chapters and timestamps on YouTube. Hello, YouTube. All right, we have a lot to get into, so let's start the morning mess with Marvel Rivals game director and others laid off just months after the hero shooter took over the charts to, quote, optimize development efficiency. This is from Ethan Gotch at Kotaku. Marvel Rivals game director and others from the development team behind the hit shooter have been laid off. The dismissals have caught many by surprise as NetEase's comic book blockbuster continues to dominate the chart on Steam and console months after its well-received launch. The director, Thaddeus Sasser, wrote on LinkedIn, "This is such a weird industry. My stellar, talented team just helped deliver an incredibly successful new franchise in Marvel Rivals for NetEase games, and we're just laid off." Marvel Rivals level designer Jack Burrows posted a similar message, kind of saying the same things. He was laid off. Marvel Rivals is from NetEase. NetEase did post a statement here to kind of clarify some things. I'll kind of read this statement. "We recently made the difficult decision to adjust Marvel Rivals development team structure for organizational reasons and to optimize development efficiency," everybody's favorite, "for the game. This resulted in a reduction of a designed team based in Seattle. This is part of a larger global design function in support of Marvel Rivals. I'll translate that. It was a smaller team in Seattle that they completely let go. They did lay these people off. There was a director of that team laid off as well. But the main team in China, I think in Guangzhou, Guangzhou province in China, they are still making the game. And this is part of a trend in NetEase where they are cutting many of the teams and the support staff and contractors they have globally around the world for a lot of different projects. They famously, as they were releasing Visions of Mana, I believe is the one that they made, as they were releasing that game, they laid off that team. Not even after it was released, like literally I think in the week leading up to it, they cut that team. So this is a trend for them. It does stink, but the Marvel Rivals team, for the most part, seems primarily intact. So when people are wondering, wait, what are they going to keep? Are they going to be able to make content for this game going forward? Yes, and yet this is still a weird thing for a game that is so successful, right, Lucy?
Oh yeah, God. I mean, there was also the NetEase, didn't they pull out? And so we've had the old BioWare team, like Matt Walters, Casey Hudson. That was NetEase, right? Like those studios, those projects shut down.
Yep.
Liquid Swords, another one. They've had to put their project on ice because NetEase, I believe, like the investment, just pulling away from gaming. So that, to me, when they were coming out, I was like, okay, so they're not making the single player investment anymore. But to pull out from Marvel Rivals, I just would not. If I worked for a NetEase backed company, I would be concerned right now, because if even Marvel Rivals can't do it.
Yeah, but like nothing's safe. I mean, really, to put it in perspective, this is a game that has 300,000 concurrent players on Steam on any given night. That is far and away more than just about any other game released recently. By an order of magnitude, a new game pops off, 80,000 concurrent players or something like that. Then it settles in around 30,000. So yeah, this is like 10 times the size. And even then, NetEase it doesn't want to justify keeping people around. Now, of course, in a case like this, level designers, maybe they're not going to have that many more levels, or maybe they're completely changing how they're doing it. So this is the way the video game industry has worked. So maybe this is not something that is peculiar about NetEase. We definitely have seen a lot of companies put out games, then cut staff after they put out the games because they don't need them for a very long time. It is a kind of a black mark on this industry, the way that always works, and that there is no sort of a safety net or way to move people from one project to another in a more efficient manner. That said, this game is so big that you kind of want to go like, keep them on staff, figure it out, give them something to do. You're probably going to need to make more content for this very successful game in the long run, and these people did a good job because this is a well-received game. So it's just a weird situation, and we're just going to continue to see stuff like this happen because this is just baked into the industry, right?
Yeah, unfortunately, line must go up.
Yep. Okay, over at Niantic, Niantic is in talks to sell games unit to Scopely.
Speaking of.
Yes. This is a weird one as well. This is from My Nintendo News. Niantic is most well known for being the ones behind Pokemon Go. This year marks an entire decade that the mobile game has been available to play on iOS and Android devices. However, in recent years, it has been a big up and down roller coaster. Multiple questionable business decisions have upset many of the game's veteran fans. Unfortunately, this latest development may not help matters. Bloomberg is reporting that, according to several people familiar with the discussions, Niantic is in talks to sell its games unit to Scopely. Scopely is a Saudi-controlled part of the Savvy Games Group. At the moment, discussions are still ongoing. However, the price being discussed is around $3.5 billion. Any agreement which is getting close to happening, but isn't set in stone yet, would mean that all of Niantic's mobile titles, including Nintendo-related titles like Pokemon Go and Pikmin Bloom, would be involved. For now, a deal could be announced in the coming weeks. However, it is again worth emphasizing that a deal hasn't been reached yet and things are subject to change. The sense I get here, Lucy, is that Niantic recognizes that they are never going to have another Pokemon Go again, and that Pokemon Go is never going to be as big as it was again. So get out while the getting is good. and do what you kind of were
in 2016.
Yes, and then do what you were kind of always meant to do, which is to take all of this data. I mean, you know, it's a global map game. It is a game where you move around the world. They track you. They know exactly where you are, how you move around the world. That data is going to be invaluable to all kinds of, you know, to the military, to policing organizations, to taxi companies, to Uber, to all these different people. Like, where are people congregating? Where do they go when they have to move through a space? How do they move? That data is invaluable. And so they're just going to, and they have it all now. They have a decade worth of millions of people moving around the world. They can kind of build models based on that for a very long time. It'll be very valuable. That is what their focus is probably going to be. And in the meantime, the games at this point start to feel like a distraction if they aren't growing anymore, right?
Oh, yeah, 100%. I mean, like, why, if it's not growing, if you're not getting money from it, what are you doing? And like, if you've pissed off your key player base and they're not investing in you anymore, if like you don't have the whales anymore, then what are you doing here? It's like wasted money when you can just sell it for 3.5 bill and walk away laughing. It's yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Pokemon Go, I know a lot of people who still actually play and who still are very into it, and like you know, it has so many great benefits. Like, it gets people walking, it got people to come together and do raids and, you know, meet people and travel and do everything. And yeah, it's just kind of line must go up, capitalism. Of course, this was going to happen.
Yeah.
I mean, if it does.
Right.
It kind of does seem like the foregone conclusion when it comes to something like this. You know, the Wizard, what was the Harry Potter one that they tried to do?
Yeah, I can't remember its name. Fantastic Beasts in Real Life, IRL. That's what it was called.
Some shit. But like, yeah, I remember when that one came out and we were playing with it in the office, and, you know, we were holding this up and you would, Wizards Unite, thank you. And you would seeing like a portal appear, and it just, it wasn't the same. I know a lot of people who do actually really enjoy. Peanut, are you okay?
Do it, Peanut.
She just jumped out of the litter box with quite speed.
They're scared of their own feces. That's all cats.
Aren't we all, man? Night after a Taco Bell.
That's
anyway.
Right.
So then I know a bunch of people who play Pikmin and who do really enjoy it, but it has not reached critical mass like Pokemon did. Yep. People love Pikmin, they're very cute, but, you know, if you show someone a Pikmin versus Pikachu, the immediate recognition, good lord.
Recognizability?
Yeah, you know what I'm trying to say.
We all get it. Yeah, you're British, you're allowed to invent the new words whenever you need to.
Yeah. I mean, frequently did throughout history. Actually, no, we didn't. We just stole them from
French mostly.
Latin, mostly, and French. But anyway, yeah, I don't think this means that Pokemon Go would go away. No.
I mean, what makes it worth $3.5 billion is Pokemon Go will make probably about that much money over the next 10 years. That in fact, I think that's a pretty low price for the amount of money that Pokemon Go will very likely make over the next 10 to 15 years, which, you know, Savvy Games Group is definitely thinking long term. That's what they want. It's just, you know, I am personally like pretty sick of feeling like so much of gaming is just pieces being moved around by billionaires so they can make their next $1 billion. And this definitely feels like, oh, okay, this was never, and of course it wasn't. Of course it was never about the games. Just of course, I get it, of course. But there are a lot of people that do work in video games, you know, in different tiers. Usually, people actually making the games who do care about that stuff and want to make sure that the gaming is vibrant and has cool ideas popping off and the stuff that we think is valuable, you know, when we're excited to talk about something on a show like this. And it's just like, well, so much of a show like this turns into talking about billionaire corporations and you know, in some cases, you know, the Savvy Games Group, a subsidiary of the richest corporation that has ever existed in the history of mankind. Okay, why do we have to be at the whims of them always, constantly? It just is very frustrating. And of course, Niantic wanting to eventually sell to a company like that, that was always the goal, and it just very frustrating. That's not to like throw away the work that the people who did make games like Wizards Unite and Pikmin Bloom and Pokemon Go did, because they probably did care about their games. But at the end of the day, that stuff goes away, and what's left over is the pieces being moved around by billionaires.
Yeah.
All right, let's keep moving here. A skater claims he's in a new Tony Hawk remaster about to come out. This is from Jordan Miedler at VGC. That's a weird name. A skater has claimed, I don't know. A skater has claimed he will appear in an upcoming unannounced Tony Hawk game remaster. We talked about this on the Bombcast a little bit yesterday. Kind of like speculate. This is probably happening. I definitely got a text message right after like kind of did this podcast before I did my
Tony
podcast.
Hawk.
From I don't know. It's hard to recognize him when you see him or when you get text messages from him. So who knows if it was him?
Well, no, he just signs it. He just signs it off with a bird emoji and then the skateboarder emoji.
That's pretty fucking cool, I gotta say. A source was like, "Hey, I told you about this last year. Did you forget?" I'm like, "Yes, I did. yes, I did. Yes, I did." Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3+4 is what they told me about last year. So I bet that is what we are going to get. That it was like, oh yeah, I vaguely remember. I think I was conflating it with like we had Tony Hawk like teasing it, and I think I got told around that time, and I'm like, okay, well that seems pretty obvious now, so not a big deal. But a lot of people kind of forgotten about that, so I think this is happening, and it's maybe not too surprising, other than the fact that Vicarious Visions that worked on the game Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1+2 don't exist anymore. I was
going to say they don't exist anymore.
Right, they are Blizzard Albany. They worked on Diablo and probably are still working on Diablo. So who's making this game? Still a wide open question. But if you, like Lucy, if you were at Microsoft and you had just acquired Activision and you saw Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1+2 is the best-selling Tony Hawk game of all time, a series that has always sold very well, you're probably going to be like, that seems like an easy win. We got to figure this one out. So I'm not too surprised that we ended up here other than who is making it, right?
Yeah. I mean, they didn't close Toys for Bob, did they?
I'm sorry, what was that?
They didn't close Toys for Bob.
No, they let Toys.
They did downsize.
They let Toys for Bob buy themselves out, I think.
Oh yes, that was it. No, Toys. You know what? Toys Honestly, for Bob got out.
Maybe not a bad call. Could be Toys for Bob because Toys for Bob,
if Toys for Bob goes independent, but still contracts for them.
And that was the story. The story was they went independent and immediately made a contract with Microsoft to make a game. Now that wasn't too long ago. That was that last year or the year before that maybe. But hey, the technology's already there for Tony Hawk's Pro Skater. Really, all they do is just build the content. They don't need to. Which
I think Toys for Bob assisted on.
I would. Am I
right on one of the remasters?
Activision probably. Certainly, they would have a bunch of teams come in there and work on stuff like that. Toys for Bob probably did help. I think Toys for Bob was also helping on Call of Duty. So how much could they have really worked on it? But yeah, that's not a bad call. And Toys for Bob, really solid team. I think the thing there is. Toys for Bob, very well known now for doing those 3D platformer remasters. Yeah, Bob. I just assume Bob is like Tom from MySpace. Just kind of a similar thing.
Who's the Bob? But no, I mean, Jake
Baldino. Wait, is it Toys for Bobby Kotick? Is that why they called it that?
Stop it! Ew, no, hang on. I'm googling Toys for Bob.
It has deeper, darker implications.
Okay, well, it was.
Everyone in chat.
It was founded.
No one like that.
It was founded by a guy called Fred and another guy called Paul.
Maybe they have kids named Bob. Do they have children? Maybe they both have children named Bob. Robert.
Don't think so. Fred Ford.
It's the opposite of a Phoenix Down moment. Yeah.
I know.
Oh, a deep dark realization. Peanut, do you know who the Bob is?
Peanut can't come to the phone right now. Jelly Bean.
Okay. Michael R. O'Leary has saved our lives here. Toys for Bob existed 2 years before Bobby took over Activision. Okay. Man, that would have been.
You know what? I'm just gonna post on Blue Sky and see if someone gets back to me.
There you go. That's the way to do it.
I posted a picture of me. I posted. You can post the most obscure stuff, and people will like. You'll find your audience. So hang on.
My strategy is, sure, Blue Sky exists. You can go out there and ask people. What I do, and people tell me if you notice this in the future, I'll just say something that I know is wrong, and then I'll wait for people who cannot help but correct people on podcasts. Because without fail, 100% of the time, someone will correct it. So I'll just say something wrong on purpose, and then someone will come and correct me, and we'll get the right answer. It's a good time.
Okay, I posted it.
All right. Cool. Well, we'll get the answer for that. You know what? There might not be an answer. Could just be a fun sounding name.
Bob might be fake.
Yep, fake Bob's.
Bob's a lie.
Bob's your uncle. All right. Let's see here. What else can I say about this? I hope this comes out soon. You know
what? For Jake Baldino, I hope this comes out.
Yep, Jake gets it. Jake understands. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1+2 is kind of like a perfect game. It just is fantastic. It feels great, looks great, sounds great. And if they just want to do 3+4, that's fantastic. I think a lot of people are like, hey, maybe they should get around to doing the Thug games, Tony Hawk's Underground 1+2. That'd be great. Would you prefer those over 3+4?
Yeah, I was a big Thug fan. I mean, not that I would prefer to 3+4. I would love 3 and 4, but I love Tony Hawk's Underground 1 and 2. I was even, you know what? I don't know, don't quote me on it because it was 20 years ago, but I do remember really enjoying American Wasteland. Because was American Wasteland the one where they didn't want to have any loading screens, and so to go from one area to the next, you just basically went a really, really long, very boring plain hallway.
There was like a hallway. Yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah.
God, I think they tried to replicate that because I never played Wasteland. I played American Skateland on the DS, which I think tried to replicate that. And I'm like, oh man, these long, boring, empty hallways. This must be a DS feature.
What's going on here?
Yeah, and it's like, oh no, that's just how they wanted to do it.
That's like their version of a Gears of War squeeze through. Yeah,
the small squeeze room. Yep, absolutely. I say this a lot every time Tony comes up, but I mean it this time. I'm gonna get the Thug Online, the fan patch. I'm gonna get that working. And maybe we could do a Thursday night throwdown or something like that. If everyone wants to like go and download that, so I'm gonna work on that tonight. Yes, it's pretty easy, right? Everyone's like so easy. I think everyone on staff could do it. So if everyone wants to play some Tony Hawk Underground, we can get that going. All right, let's take a quick break. When we come back, we'll talk about how FromSoftware feels about Sony. Right after this. All right, let's get right back into it. FromSoftware didn't want Sony to publish Dark Souls as it was disappointed by how Demon Souls was treated. This is from Jordan Midler at VGC.
2009 GameSpot Game of the Year, Demon Souls.
That's right, yeah.
On the right side of history.
That was the game. Like at that time, like I was like kind of barely working in the industry. I was volunteering at BitMob with Dan Shu. And there was some editors on that staff there that were like, would not stop talking about this Demon Souls game. And I'm like, I'm going to have to learn what this is. And then it got Game of the Year. I'm like, well, all right. Apparently I'm just on the out here. Demon Souls, I hope that PS5 version comes to PC. That would be fantastic. I would love to just play that on the Steam Deck. Anyway, FromSoftware didn't want to work on a Demon Souls sequel with Sony because it was disappointed with the way the game was handled. Former PlayStation executive Shuhei Yoshida claims. Demon Souls was developed by FromSoftware in collaboration with Sony Japan Studio. During the game's development, it was planned that the game would be published globally by Sony, but this didn't come to be. Although these days, Demon Souls is considered the first entry in the... Yes, I'm sorry, I lost my spot. In FromSoftware's popular Souls-like series of games, it said that at the time, Sony couldn't see the game's global appeal. Due to the game's high difficulty and negative early playtest, Sony decided not to localize Demon Souls for an English-language release. Instead, in the US, the game was published by Atlas, and in Europe, publishing was handled by Bandai Namco. Speaking to the Sacred Symbols podcast, former SIE president Yoshida explained that Sony wanted to work on the sequel to Demon Souls with FromSoftware, but the developer turned it down and instead decided to work with Bandai Namco on what would become Dark Souls. I think everything that Shuhei Yoshida has kind of talked about since he's left Sony, I think he's doing this in a targeted way. I think he's trying to give people answers as best he can for the questions
without
without getting sued, but answers to questions he's probably been asked 5,000 times when he did work at Sony and he couldn't say anything. I think this is like also this like links over to Bloodborne a little bit, where it's like Bloodborne. Okay, FromSoftware did go back and work with Sony. They did go hand in hand. They basically did the exact same kind of deal they did with Demon Souls. And I think FromSoftware is probably feeling a little bit like, okay, yeah, maybe it went a little bit better, but it's not. The situation is not that much different. We don't feel like Sony was like really in love with this game the way we are, and we are having a much better time working with Bandai Namco still. And so we're going to just keep working with them. And now I think that Miyazaki at FromSoftware is at a point where it's like it would take him a lot to go back and work with Sony again in that way. I mean, there's always rumors that there is some Sony thing happening with FromSoftware, but a lot of that is feeling like, oh, they're doing that out of any contractual obligations, and there is no obligation to go back and do anything with Bloodborne. So Miyazaki's trying to avoid that or working on other stuff instead. That's my read on the situation. And again, I'll go back to the one thing I do know, which is Bloodborne. Nothing will happen with Bloodborne without Miyazaki and without FromSoftware being involved, even though Sony could do that if they wanted to. FromSoftware is kind of standing in the way of that. And they are too busy, so they haven't been able to get around to it for whatever reason. Obviously, they're making a lot of games. So that's why we don't get Bloodborne stuff, And then on top of that, I think Miyazaki seems like I've been burned by Sony enough times, and Bloodborne's just the most recent example of that.
Yeah, I think also as well, if you love Shu, it does not help that the kind of the big infamous story about him playing Demon Souls back in the day was him calling it crap.
Yep. And he did that with God of War as well. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. And so if someone on first party, when you're exclusive with them, calls your game potentially crap, then I can understand that. You're maybe not itching to jump back into it, but also you're looking at the success of FromSoftware at this point. Even Armored Core doing as well as it did do on a more niche title. I mean, certainly, like, I think I was surprised at how much Armored Core Fires of Rubicon sold, but then the enormous success of Elden Ring, Dark Souls 3, Sekiro, like they're kind of being able to have their cake and eat it too, by going multi-platform. And I think we've all learned recently that maybe single platform is not the way to go with game releases. And so, if you want to get Microsoft to pay for your marketing spend, sure, do it. But I don't know. Just be free. Let Bloodborne come to PC. Come on.
And I think
leave Lance McDonald alone, okay?
Yes. Let him just go play Sony. The games. I think your explanation is the correct one, and the one that actually does kind of get to the what is happening here. And when I say maybe FromSoft feels a little bit burned by the way Sony has treated Bloodborne, I don't mean anything negative, nefarious happened there. Just that the game did pretty okay, and yet Sony doesn't feel like it did okay enough to really.
They do have. This is the second time in a week I've mentioned this, and at the San Mateo office they have a Bloodborne elevator.
Yeah, I mean, they definitely. There's definitely people who within the Sony organization that recognize Bloodborne and
Astrobot
want to have ownership over it for sure. Yes, and it's not like there's bad blood. I just think Miyazaki's if I have the choice of where I'm going to work in the future, it is not going to be, or it'll be limited with Sony, and instead we will do the path that has worked for us really well over and over again, and enables us to put games out everywhere, which is probably the biggest factor, of course. All right. Tetris Forever is getting its own collectible handheld console. This is from Ollie Reynolds at Nintendo Life. Digital Eclipse has announced that its Gold Master series will be going physical via publisher Clear River Games, with boxed editions available for The Making of Karateka, Llama Soft, The Jeff Minter Story, and Tetris Forever. The crown jewel of the collection is undoubtedly the collector's edition for Tetris Forever, priced at $140. This will come with its own bespoke handheld unit that will play Tetris, the Famicom version, and Tetris 2 plus Bombless. Also included is an exclusive soundtrack CD, Tetramino magnets, woven patches, and a poster. This will all come housed in a fancy modular Tetramino box, and it honestly looks wonderful. The other ones are going to be $70. That includes The Making of Karateka and Llama Soft, The Jeff Minter Story. This is pretty cool. I like that games can come out digitally first, find an audience, and then these companies can find ways to still bring out the physical version later. Also, these little handhelds, the Chinese handhelds that I love, they can manufacture those things for $10. So I expect more and more we get bonuses in collector's editions that include stuff like this, a little handheld gizmo, because it's such a cheap thing to produce.
Yeah. And also, I mean, someone said in the chat earlier that The Thing, Night Dives, The Thing is coming. Again, found its audience digitally, enough to come out physical. I think it's really awesome.
Yeah, Night Dive is very good at that. I don't know Clear River Games, but I'm sure they're just one of these outfits that do things like this where they work with other studios to figure out the logistics of releasing a physical game. I think everyone thinks of limited run games, but there are several of these companies that do this. And I think, they're probably all at the right size and scale to make it make sense for them. Whereas Microsoft, I think, is deprecating and limiting their physical production capabilities because it's they don't see the value of it in terms of how much they're selling digitally. So they're we're less interested in that in the long run, to the point where I think in the future, next gen, by the end of the next generation, a lot of the first party games from a company like Microsoft, I bet they get physical versions after the digital version from one of these outfits. Yeah. That seems to be the direction we're heading, right?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I don't remember the last time I bought a physical game. As sad as that is, I have become what I feared most, and that is a digital media enjoyer.
Yeah, I think it was Nintendo's last earnings report where they said that they are now more than 50% digital. And it's okay, even the Switch, which has a ton of people who love buying the physical games, there's a huge collector audience on the Switch. Even in that case, digital is slowly eroding that, and it's actually not that slow, really. So, Hollow Knight Silksong page removed from Nintendo Store, but it has returned. This is from Landpits at GameSpot. I think this is mostly the original story. The update is it returned. Silksong, the highly
somehow Hollow Knight Silksong has returned,
even though it's not real, and we all know that. We can all admit that to one another. Fake game. Silksong, the highly anticipated sequel to Hollow Knight that has the player take control of the mysterious Hornet, the Hornet from Daytona, has been removed from Nintendo's eShop. While the game is still listed on the PlayStation Store, Xbox, Steam, and the Nintendo eShop in the EU, the circumstances of why it was removed from Nintendo's North American eShop is a mystery. A strong theory is that it's being moved to a Switch 2 launch and not outright canceled. Just last month, developer Team Cherry assured fans that development was going smoothly and that the game would indeed be released at some point. I think the assumption that this has to do with Switch 2, I get. I think the more likely scenario here is that someone just forgot to check a box, and so it automatically got delisted, and then it's back. Oh, look at
what Peanut. Are you doing?
Is that not normal? Is the cat not supposed to be on the fridge?
No. Jelly.
Oh, is that Jelly? Jelly Bean? Okay.
That's Jelly's the orange one. Okay. She's the one brain cell. I found her on top of my shower door the other day.
Oh, that rules.
I'm just gonna get her down.
Yeah, you do. Go get that cat.
Hey.
Oh, kitty cat. What are you thinking? There's nothing up there for you. Cats just love being up high so they can look down on their subjects. That's their thing. All right, we've rescued Jelly Bean, everybody. We did it.
We did it.
Silksong's not real. It's never coming out.
Nope.
It's
sorry, everyone.
It's been
sorry, everyone who's been playing it. Who's been hoping for it.
I think we're at 2,076 days since Mike Minotti played that at E3. Yes.
He played it?
He played Silksong more than 2,000 days ago for shoot. That is not even, I'm not exaggerating at all. It's almost 2,100 days since he played it.
That is ridiculous.
That's the weirdest thing about this.
This is incredible. Hang on. Kane Highland, just for funsies, ever since Silksong was announced, we got Judgment, Yakuza 7, Lost Judgment, Like a Dragon Ishin, Like a Dragon Gaiden, Infinite Wealth, Pirates in Hawaii, Virtual Fighter 5, and the announcement of Virtual Fighter 6.
Yeah.
The devil works hard.
Yes.
But RGG works harder.
There are different studios work at different paces, apparently. I mean, let's just talk about what the reaction to this story was, Lucy. People freaked out. It got delisted from Nintendo eShop. Something has happened with Silksong. I think it was trending on social media, and
who notices that stuff?
I mean, apparently Hollow Knight fans, because they're so thirsty for it that any little movement was they're just like a bubble ready to burst, and they bursted. They bursted, and it was I think evidence of, hey, this game has deep, deep expectations. Like people are in their feelings about this thing, and they are going to have to try. And I think Team Cherry is aware of that. And one of the reasons this game is taking so long is they feel an obligation to live up to those expectations, and that at a certain point has got to be oppressive. The amount of pressure that they are putting on themselves.
Oh yeah, I mean, at some point, are you just pushing yourself too far in the pursuit of perfection, and it's not going to happen? But
right. I mean, if the game came out
and also,
5 years ago,
clear,
it would be like, oh, okay, by now they could have a third one that's like, okay, we took the feedback and we built on top of that, but like, no, they're going to get it right with this one.
Yeah. Also, to be clear, we were joking about like the Yakuza team being more prolific because there's hundreds of devs versus
of course.
I don't know how big Team Cherry is, but
yes, and it's like it's like the things that the Yakuza team do, like to make games fast, reuse assets and stuff like that. I mean, that's only going to be so helpful.
There's not been a single reused asset or location in a Yakuza game.
They do it, and I love it. I wish more developers did it.
I am playing Pirate Yakuza in Hawaii right now, and it is phenomenal.
It's a really good time, isn't it? I've been I started it just like, okay, I'm gonna kind of get this in between a bunch of other stuff that games that are still coming out, and Avowed, which I really love Avowed. I'm like loving it the more I play it. But I'm like, I started playing that on the Steam Deck, and it works so good on the Steam Deck that I just kept playing that for a while. It's really excellent. Silksong. God, it probably does come out this year, and if it doesn't, who knows what's going on over there? And then at a certain point, it's like, what if it never actually comes out? I know we joke about it, but what if it never comes out? I mean,
I don't know. I think it will come out.
Sure, I do too.
It's one of those games. It's turning into like a GTA situation where I don't want to hear about it unless there's actual news. I can't see all the posts and news stories about like, oh, fans think GTA trailers coming out because they put a screenshot into the Wayback Machine and found parallels between this and 1969. I don't know. I find that so exhausting. It is no way. And I think that comes from the fact that I used to have to like search for Easter eggs and stuff as a job.
Right.
In Game of Thrones, in Marvel, in everything. I just can't live like that anymore, man.
No.
I'll enjoy it when it comes out.
Well,
I'll enjoy it when it comes out.
You are
if it ever does.
Your fortitude, your constitution, much greater than mine. I never could have done that job. All right, let's keep going here. PS5. This is related to PS5. Japan studio closed because the AA market has disappeared, says Shuhei Yoshida. This is from Jordan Midler at VGC. Former PlayStation executive Shuhei Yoshida says the market became really difficult for Sony Japan's studio-style games, which contributed to the studio's closure. Yoshida, who left PlayStation earlier this year after a 30-year career, has given several interviews about his time at PlayStation. When asked about the closure of PlayStation's Japan studio and fan perception about PlayStation losing its Japanese influence, Yoshida claimed that it was the market that dictated Sony's shift in focus away from Japan studio IP. During my time, people give me credit, but one of the things I was not successful at was having a successful service game. And the other things is I was not able to have amazingly successful games made in Japan, Yoshida explained. Other than Gran Turismo, we had many great products, but didn't really have many AAA level successful products. That became more and more important as the games became bigger and bigger. The indies filled that gap, and the AA market seems to have disappeared, he said in the interview. I guess it's what we all assumed happened here, right? Is that, and at the time they said they want to make games that have more global appeal. That's how they framed it. And so we were trying to read between the lines, and it was, okay, you think that Japan Studio makes a certain caliber of a game that is aimed at a more niche audience, and you don't want to be in that business anymore. And that seems to be exactly what happened there. I think, in a moment like now where they are talking about, hey, after Astrobot, we want to have more games that appeal to families and wider audiences or different audiences that, don't necessarily just come to stuff for like The Last of Us. I think a Japan studio would be a great fit right now. So I do think maybe that was a bit short-sighted. Do you think that they're feeling that at all, or they're happy that they don't have to deal with these middle-of-the-road games in terms of appeal?
So hang on. So we are using AA to mean not mass market instead of AA not in terms of budget and size.
He's saying
scope.
AA, and I think that is like anything for him. I think that means anything above indie and anything below the biggest blockbuster games.
Right. I mean, it's certainly not. It's certainly a short-sighted approach, because now look at the position that PlayStation is in with regard to its games being too big, too expensive, and take too long to make. Yeah. Indies, yes, back 10 years ago or so, and that's not to say that they haven't been investing in indies, but like there was certainly a time like around 2012 where they had that really big push into indies. They had the really big push into the PlayStation Vita and games for that, and then AA over the years, it just feels like they got less and less involved in, like Japan studio closing, and it's like. It's just sad, because at the end of the day, the people who are missing out are gamers who are not going to get those experiences because a studio like Japan Studio is gone because executives think that AA doesn't exist. And like maybe your project is too big in scope for an indie but too small in scope, or you can make it cheaper than a AAA. And it's sad, like there could be the next blockbuster, but just no one wants to give them money.
Yep, I think,
and especially when you play Astrobot.
Yep,
and like,
exactly.
I know you feel the same. Where it's like so much joy in seeing those games and seeing those kind of more niche references. Like, yeah, it's great to see Ellie and Joel, but you can't swing a bat in a PlayStation. I don't know, office. That was a bad example, but you see Ellie and Joel bloody everywhere. Oh, a giraffe, is it? Oh, I've seen them before. Well, no, show me like a weird. Show me, I guess maybe it was like Media Molecule kind of Tearaway, for example, says to me is kind of a AA-esque.
Yeah, I mean it's not a blockbuster, that's for sure. Yeah,
no.
Yeah. I think it's very easy for us to sit here and look back and be like, boy, in the time since Japan Studios closed, it feels like games from Japan have only taken more of the spotlight. The weird ones also have done that. The ones that have focused mostly on gameplay and just being fun have also they found their footing. Just overall, the Japanese market has also like really established itself in a much stronger position than it did a few years ago, where the PS4 wasn't selling very well or whatever. It's like the PS5 still not anywhere near selling as well as the Switch or whatever, but it's doing pretty good, and people seem to be interested in like weird little games over there in Japan. And then globally, Japanese stuff is more popular than it's ever been, and you would think having a studio that could capitalize on that would be very valuable. And again, it's very easy for us to sit here and say that, but I just would have been like, no, we'll see this through. Of course, maybe we could try different things. Maybe the marching orders for a Japan studio should be a little bit different. That's fine. I think kind of getting creative, but I think they just thought AA will never return, and our future is live service and big blockbuster mega games that are that cost $250 to $300 million and make $1 billion. And it's like, okay, well, we have now seen the flaws in that strategy. That's not foolproof, clearly.
Is there I know there's like the game dev simulator. Is there game publisher simulator? Is there a
game publisher tycoon?
Is there a football manager?
There's got to be a
game publishing.
Game for that, yeah.
Is there a spreadsheet game?
Game Dev Story was really good, but it's not. It's pretty close to what you're talking about.
But then you were the devs though, and I don't think there. I mean, I played it years ago. I don't think there was. I don't think there was option to make a live service or anything. I think it was no.
That's an older game for sure.
Yeah, I still have it on my phone.
Yeah, we still called them gas games back then. Games as a service.
Gas.
Give me the gas. Either way, I wish they would have kept Japan Studio open. I bet right now today, I bet they wish they had kept it open. Yep. All right, last couple of stories here. Nvidia's 50 series cards drop support for PhysX, impacting older games. This is from Kevin Purdy at Ars Technica. Most PC games that you could play on a modern PC would run faster on an RTX 5080 or 5090 than, say, a GTX 1070. But some games, from a particular phase of enthusiasm for particles, destructible environments, and smooth-moving hair will take a notable hit if their owners upgrade to the latest Nvidia cards. That's because PhysX, that's PhysX, once a dedicated physics simulation tool that became a selling point for Nvidia's gear, has been largely deprecated on Nvidia 50 series cards. The transition was announced in January, but it seems to have taken some time for someone to notice the impact on 32-bit physics-enabled games. The most recent of those affected games to ever be released was Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag, which came out in 2013. There was never a ton of support for PhysX. That's why they dropped it.
Yeah, who used PhysX? The one, because I thought for a second you're talking about like TressFX.
Right, TressFX is like it's like related to this. It's like in the same family. And honestly, TressFX might be powered by PhysX. I don't know. But there was Batman. There was a Batman game that used PhysX and stuff like that.
Knight.
Yeah, Arkham Knight.
Witcher 3 apparently uses it. Killing Floor 2, Fallout 4, Borderlands 2.
And this was like the short version here is running physics simulation on the GPU as opposed to the CPU, which is what most games do. Why developers didn't adopt it, I have no idea. I've never looked into that, but they didn't. I think mostly, my guess would be most middleware that like powers physics just runs on the CPU. Easier to use that. Easier to plug in open source solutions that already ran on the CPU, and the Nvidia tools probably weren't as good as that stuff. That would be my guess. TressFX was AMD. Okay, that makes sense.
Oh, that makes sense.
All right.
Is SpeedTree okay? Genuinely, SpeedTree is in the new and I had a little. Yay.
Yeah, SpeedTree does what it says on the 10. You know, you could just quickly make a bunch of ground. With trees
imagine just years. I made a video about them like 10 years ago. Yeah. God. But imagine just like one day, just going, "Hey, I've got you got a problem? You need some trees? You need some vegetation?"
What is tress? Tress is that like is that French for hair?
Tresses is a way of saying like your hair, your tresses.
Okay, yeah.
And then like Tresemme is a shampoo that I use actually.
Okay,
not sponsored. It was just cheap. Hey, no. If I'm gonna get sponsored by any shampoo shit, it should be like some really good stuff.
I'll do it for Fructis. I've said it. Get at me, Fructis. Is that still a brand? I don't know if it is.
So I remember that I know someone who uses that horse shampoo.
Ivermectin?
No, no, the not Horse and Hound. That was the fake magazine from Notting Hill. You know, like the Mane and Tail. Mane and Tail.
Okay. Oh yeah, Mane and Tail. Right.
Yeah. Did you in America? Did you have the shampoo that looked like little pirates?
I don't know. Like
Mateys? Was that it?
Oh, that sounds familiar.
Mateys shampoo. Again, really. Oh my god. Oh no, that's Matrix. Okay, thank God. I thought they'd really. Yeah. British Food Club, you can get Mateys shampoo, and it just had the
bubble bath. Is what
and it had the no more tears thing.
Yeah, that sounds
that was
familiar. Yeah.
You were, like, if you had that was primo.
Oh, okay.
Your parents loved you if you had Mateys.
Oh, okay. So there's tresses, there's pirates, there's all these are kinds of hairs.
There's a fish.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. Mane and Tail.
Right.
Olaplex. Yes, I would like to be sponsored by Olaplex. That shit is good.
All right, let's wrap this show up. Netflix has reportedly laid off multiple workers at Oxenfree developer Night School Studio, excuse me, from Chris Scullion at VGC. The headline's pretty much the story, though. Netflix, they've tried to make gaming happen. I think we were all kind of sitting on the sideline and be like, okay, this is better than what Google was trying to do with Stadia for sure. But, making games is hard. Being in the gaming business, very difficult, very different from like just putting movies on a server. It just is. And so not too surprising that Netflix is losing their taste for this a little bit. It just sucks always that leads to people losing their job, especially at a studio that, probably would have found a different home or would have been fine on their own, just continuing to make Oxenfree games. This stinks.
Yeah, I really think Netflix does struggle to promote its games. Like, I had no idea Oxenfree 2 had even come out, which is such a shame. Like, I really enjoyed the first game. I've met people from that studio. I mean, lovely, just like really enthusiastic, and that's the thing. All devs want to do is just tell good stories, make great experiences,
make great games.
And then line must go. Yeah, I really don't understand what Netflix are hoping to get out of gaming. I
mean, they're just looking for any sort of new route to growth, right? They've saturated the people that want to get movies and TV
I was gonna say it's like it's the Silicon Valley mindset of let's just throw a bunch of money at it and see what happens, and then when it doesn't, immediately make a return on investment. And
and honestly, I wish the Oxenfree devs were free of this, but Netflix, stay away from games. I don't need your algorithms coming in here and telling you what needs to last for 2 seasons, the equivalent of whatever that would be for video games. Get the hell out of here. We don't need you. No. And you honestly would just be a negative force in an industry that already has nothing but negative forces. So good riddance. I don't think they're getting out of games completely, but they should.
No.
Okay, I got a poll question ready for everybody. Let me get that over here.
I also have an answer.
Oh, okay, yeah, you hit me that while I get set up. Okay, who is Bob?
Okay, I tweeted out. I posted even. Who is the Bob in Toys for Bob? Does anyone know? Christopher Baggett. From a Google book. Which book is this? It is Honoring the Code, Conversations with Great Game Designers. And this is an interview with the founders of Toys for Bob. Question. Toys for Bob, then. How did you get the name? Paul. I'm glad you asked that. I'm looking at you, Laurie, my wife. We were looking for names, and Laurie recommended Toys for Bob because it's playful and people could project something of themselves into it. She's a poet, so she thinks about words very carefully. It works marvelously well. I can't tell you how many people desperately want to know the real truth behind Toys for Bob. The company rule is that each of us has to come up with our own Bob and then act like that is the only Bob, further confusing people. It's a discordant approach. Somehow, though, Toys for Bob has survived being a partnership, a division of Crystal Dynamics or corporation, and now a studio within Activision. We've just pulled it along with us. My personal Bob is the sub-genius.
Okay.
So, I don't know about that last line.
Sure, me neither. But I like that a lot. That's very cool. That's the way to do it.
Yep.
Yeah, and hey, Toys for Bob, that does sound like it's a nice thing to say. It does sound pleasant. I enjoy it. And
then Christopher followed up with, the real Bob is the Bobs we made along the way.
Perfect. No notes. All right. Poll question from last Friday, I believe, because we were off Monday for President's Day. Which March game are you most looking forward to? Let's work our way up here by a number of votes. 11% are look forward to Ben Star's The First Berserker Kazan. 23% are looking forward to Suikoden 1 and 2 Remaster. 29% looking forward to Split Fiction, which is out in 2 weeks.
Mate, it's a good game.
You seem like you enjoyed it. Yes.
Loved it.
You played it at a preview event and enjoyed it. Okay. Well, I can't wait. And then 37% Assassin's Creed Shadows. So that
Still
game
got almost 40%.
Yep, the game seems like it might have some interest, might have some juice. We'll see. I got a new poll question before we get to that, though. Lucy James Games, why don't you tell people where they can find you on the internet, if that's something you even want, what you have going on, and all that good stuff.
There's like someone at my front door doing something, so that's interesting.
You need to handle that? Feel free to handle that if you need to.
I don't know what they're doing. Anyway, I am just about to record a new episode of Jeff's Explore Adventure for Berserk. And then I'm going to Japan on Friday, so I'll not be here next week, but I'll be back the week after. I can't tell you I'm going to Japan.
Definitely enjoy that. We'll catch up with you when you get back. You can tell us, regale us with all your stories. Looking forward to it.
Oh, yes. Yes.
All right. I wanted to scroll up here instead. Which remake would you want more? Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3+4 or Tony Hawk's Underground 1+2? You can vote on that poll question now by going to youtube.com/@GiantBomb, the community tab there. Vote there. We'll get the results, talk about it on Game Mess Mornings here on Giant Bomb tomorrow. Speaking of Giant Bomb, later today, in about an hour from now, it is Giant Bomb's Hole Off. We're having a hole off, everybody. We're going to play a game about digging a hole. So it'll be a stream about a game about a game about digging a hole, because we are making a game out of it. We are going to race to see who can dig the hole the fastest. And really, we might style points maybe. I think we should have the chat vote on who has the best hole.
Well,
so giantbomb.com, everybody. And then after that, right after that, depending on, I guess, how long the hole goes, we are going to have Blight Club, the Return of Blues Brothers 2000. I'm not
featuring my favorite level.
Yes.
The opening.
Lucy's favorite level, the opening of Blues Brothers 2000. So look out for all that. We have more stuff happening later this week. But that stuff's in motion, in the works. We'll give you an update as we know more. But games are coming out. We're going to be playing some of them. Yakuza, stuff like that. We'll get it all on this website or somewhere else for you here pretty soon. Lucy James Games, thank you so much for hanging out with me today and talking about video games. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. And Jellybean says thank you for having me.
Thank you, Jellybean. Thank you for entertaining us and getting on the fridge. I'll slip you the 20 later for doing that. Till next time, everyone. Have a good one. Take care of yourself. You're the best audience in gaming. Goodbye.
Bye.
Okay, we are